Is Emilio Hernandez, and today I'm gonna talk about my 5 favorite books. So the first book that I chose was The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. It's basically the story of a boy named Bruno, which his father was like the general of a concentration camp. So the kid was really bored because he always had teachers inside his house and he was always inside his house. So he was really bored because he didn't really have any friends. So one day he went to his garden and he found out that the garden was connecting to a concentration camp. Uh, but his father was like the general of the concentration camp. So her father wouldn't let him in, but he found a boy on the concentration camp and really became friends, but they were only talking on a fence. So one day the boy shaved his head and basically entered because the Jewish boy gave him a pajamas to play with him, and the German boy entered to the camp, and basically the nobody noticed he was the son of the general, and so he was killed inside the gas chamber. And I like this book because it's like a different perspective of how a boy sees the world versus how his father and everyone else sees the world, and sees the different cultures and how different cultures interact between each other. The book that I'm going to talk about is I Am Number Four, which is basically a saga of 7 books, but I only read the first one, which talk about 9 children or 9 kids with superpowers that came from Lorian planet, and basically the Mogadorians are trying to extinct the race, so basically they attack their planet, and they were selected to came to Earth in order to hide and they don't get killed, so the race doesn't get extinct. And they have superpowers called legacies, and basically in order to the race to extinct they have to kill them in order, like number 1, 2, 3, until 9. So they killed number 1, 2, and 3, and basically the story is about the number 4, like the title says, and they try to fight against the Mogadorians because they came to Earth and they found them. So basically, they're trying all together to fight against them and not to the race to extinct. And I like this book because it always keeps you entertaining and learning you new things about science fiction, because I like that a lot. And you also see how the story has different perspective and different ways to show. The book that I chose, it was also from science fiction, and it's called The Hunger Games. My favorite one from the trilogy is the first one. So basically it's a guy named Pita and a girl named Katniss. They were living on the 12 districts. It was 12 districts on like the city, and basically the most important is the first one, and the 12th one is the poorest. Katniss was like the head of the family because her father died when she was really young, and her mother was having like anxiety and stuff like that, so she was not able to bring food home to her sister and her, so Katniss took the leader of the family, and she was bringing food to her sister and from her and to her mom also. So one day, in order to remember the revolution caused 74 years ago, they were electing one boy and one girl from each district to go and kill themselves. Basically, just one, the one who kills everybody wins. So Pita, this guy, was elected, and uh, thus Katniss' sister was also elected. But Katniss volunteered herself because she was able to kill animals with her bow, and her sister was more innocent, so she was not able to kill anybody or something. So they went and they fight with each other, but Pete and Katniss were the winners, the only couple to win, and basically there caused drama and like excitement between the people, so that make angry the government. I like this because they don't follow the rules, they don't follow like the structures people normally put in a society, and they go out of the box, and it challenges the government, stuff like that, in a good way. And they always try to improve their style of of living. And I also like that Katniss volunteered to her sister because she knew that her sister wasn't able to fight. That I chose was Maze Runner, who is basically a bunch of guys in the center of a maze trying to escape, and they were surviving and fighting for food and stuff like that with the animals that were around the maze to survive. And each night they were trying to find the way out of the maze. So one day the first girl arrived, and so it was a challenge for them. Also they tried to escape, so every day they went out. So one day it was not the way to come back, there was no way to come back. So a lot of people were killed by these animals, and they found like a rectangle which was the exit. And when everybody exits, another people, which is like the government, found them, and that's where the first book stops. I like this book because they don't give up on always trying to find the exit. And I think it's very important in life, always fighting for what you want. Was Divergent, which is basically a society reigned by 5 factions the government established to keep order in the society. So there was no fights, there was no changes, there was always following rules. So basically when you turn 16, you decide if to stay in your faction or you change. So there was this named Gertrude, that she was divergent. Divergent means that you don't only belong to one faction, you belong to different factions. So that was a threat to the government, because as they want to keep order, if you belong to more, basically you start kind of like a revolution. So the people were really tired of the way the government treat them and the government rules. So they start a revolution on their own, and basically they run away so they can plan the revolution and also like move the government away from the power. And I like this book because you don't want to be always on the same square your entire life, and I think you also want to sometimes get out of the rules, and the story is really entertaining.